Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by Professor Jeffrey Tuff, otherwise known as Professor Tuffy. Professor is an expert in using music to help males and females meet, and also has a doctorate in using music to create fun at live venues. Welcome, Professor Tuff. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. And having said that, I just did a 50th on last Saturday night where they met at one of my gigs back in the early 90s.
There you go.
So
You,
it's,
you have a lot to answer for quite a population explosion during those times. But, mate, before we get on to the stuff we're going to chat about, I do want to get an early plug in for the fact that you and I are performing on a stage together, creating music and fun stuff at the Full Moon Hotel at Shorncliffe this coming weekend, which is, what's the date? I should have checked the date. Hang on.
is it the 10th? No, the 11th.
No, the 11th.
The 11th.
So we're for those watching it, it's the 11th of October, 2025. If you see
That's
this
the
after
one.
that date, well, then don't go there.
For any time travellers around to get the right dates.
Exactly.
Don't want to get
But the Full Moon is
wrong
one of the awesome venues around Brisbane. They have live music on all the time. It's just a classy place, it's a really nice place where a lot of fun is had with great food and everything else. And they have really big nights normally when Tuffy and I are there. So please come on by. We kick off at 8 o'clock. We go to about 11:30. We have to be home in bed by 1, so we can't go much later.
Oh, yes. That's of course.
Mate, I want to get you on today because we've had a pretty mega in Brisbane where we're based. Well, you're kind of all over the shop, but basically we're centred in Brizzy. But it's been a big couple of weeks of sport, mate. We just had the rugby league grand final yesterday where the Broncos men and women won, and it was an absolutely cracker of a game. And the week before, we of course had our Brisbane Lions win down in Melbourne, and I just get the feeling across the country. Something I often say is that Australians made up of two types of people. You've got Queenslanders and people who want to be Queenslanders. And I think we kind of proved that point a bit this week. And you get these people that come up from Victoria and live up here, mate, and they end up engaging and loving our sport up here, like you've done. You're probably one of the most avid, mentally deranged, you might say, sometimes supporter of the Brisbane Lions.
I am, and that all came, well, obviously, I played AFL football as a kid, or VFL as it was in the day. But, we moved up here in 1989, and I was a mad Geelong supporter, as it turns out. And we'd go down and watch the Bears, and I'd go down and watch Gary Ablett. Absolutely kill it. Oh, yeah, when we just got out, and there was no Bears supporters at all. Then they moved to Brisbane, and Lenny, my wife, she got tickets through the school to go to the game because they couldn't pull a crowd. So she dragged the kids along, and they loved it. And I was gigging, so I didn't get to into the game. So I used to play Sunday afternoons. And then I was doing a gig at City Rowers, and an ex-Geelong captain who joined the Bears happened to be in the room, and I was just a mad Geelong supporter. His name was Andrew Buse. They call him the Rat. And being the big fan, I've gone running. I said, "Oh, Rat, how are you? I'm Tuffy, and I love you, Geelong, and all that stuff." And anyway, out of that, we became friends, and then he introduced me to the Lions and to the players and all that type of stuff. And then he was the only Geelong person I knew, so I thought I'd cross over and follow the boys. So that was in about 94, I reckon, and been that ever since. And I've been alive longer in Queensland than I have been in Victoria now. So I'm
mate, the last weekend in September, I know never to try and call you anything because you're going to be at that mighty MCG, come hell or high water normally, but especially if the Lions are putting on a display there. And mate, I wanted to chat to you today about that experience because I'm assuming you were down there this year.
I was definitely down there, me and the great Lenny. It was awesome. It was the best thing I've been to. I've been to all the grand finals, losing and winning, and this one was unbelievable. Because they didn't give them a chance. They've just done it such the hard way with injuries, and they had a draw where it was almost impossible. Like they'd send you over to Western Australia, then have to give you a game in 5 days' time after that, and you couldn't get a chance to recover, and they still battled through. So they lost a few games, and I'm thinking, and what we do normally around the grand final time or the finals time is we take that weekend off regardless, and we either go home to Cardwell where we're based, or we go to Melbourne for the footy. So we're watching the preliminary final. I was at a gig, and the first quarter we killed it. And I rang up Linny. I go, "How are we doing?" She goes, "Good. Looks like we're going to the grand final." Then the next quarter we got flogged. Oh, looks like we're going to Cardi. And we're going through the whole thing because you got to get your tickets and all that type of stuff lined up. Within a few days. So, as it turned out, they won, and Linny already booked some accommodation down in Melbourne in the CBD that you could get a refund on, and we drove down, and it was the tickets to fly down was an arm and a leg, so we just drove down, and just soaked up the whole atmosphere, the parade. And I'll catch up with family down there. They're all Geelong supporters. The eldest son, he's still a mad Geelong supporter. So we caught up with them and just had a friendly dinner before the war, and none of us have spoken to each other since. No. Contacted everyone's good. But
yeah, mate. You have to feel sympathy for them, so you can't be too.
No, I felt none at all.
I've only been to the MCG once. It was many years ago. I was down doing some gigs and having meetings in Melbourne. It was just a random thing. I just got to see Melbourne play Hawthorn, and I wasn't sort of really following the sport in a big way, but just that whole experience of being at the MCG and watching the game was great. It's like one of those Aussie cultural things. And I think for me, I was a mad cricket fan. To get to see the Boxing Day Test down there would be for me.
Yeah.
Mate, just for people like me who's never had that experience of a grand final in at the MCG, and we've got to say, I probably watch more rugby league or rugby union as say cricket, but I really appreciate the AFL and I love watching the Lions play. And I was gigging, but I was watching the game crazy and like very closely as all the people there who were at the gig. And
did they have it on the screen while you were playing?
Yeah, they did, mate. Yeah, got to the last quarter, and I said to them, "I'm not. We're watching the game. I'm not playing over this yet."
Yeah.
Anyway, we know all that story. But mate, it's probably the national sport in many ways. It's played around most of the country more than anywhere else. They do a great job with the young people and everything, and they capture the heart and minds. Rugby league, while it is in Victoria, and I know people around the country watch it. AFL does have more of a national coverage, I think. But mate, so it's probably a national sport in that way, and it's uniquely for here. It's not like it's really played anywhere else. I know they dabble in it in other places, but it was created here, I believe, to as a reason to keep people fit and do something with the fields in the off cricket seasons. I think that's where it started. If I hear that story right. So it's a bit like I think Americans invented basketball to do a similar thing, and we had AFL, and AFL just grew and grew and grew. But mate, that whole experience of going down there, I wanted to chat with you about that because it's something I've never seen, but I just imagine Melbourne sporting mad to start with.
Yeah.
Victorians are pretty mad to start with. I'll hold you up as a example of that to, prove my point there.
Yeah.
And mate, how's it work down there? I mean, they have is it the captain's parade before then or the thing through the
No, on the Friday, they have the parade. They have both teams. They end up at the MCGs out. They've got big fields out the back with a big stage, and both teams get on the stage. And there's a parade of people just watching them come. I don't know, probably 30,000 people just watching the parade. From the city into the ground. Then they have.
How far is that? How far is from the city to the ground?
I'd say I think when it starts, it's about 40 minutes because they're going slow. So I'm not too sure exactly where it starts, but it ends up at the G.
Well, about 5K would it be?
Oh yeah, if that. But it's slow. I mean, they're going at walking slow pace. So look, we were staying in the heart of the city, and we got there in about 45 minutes.
In Melbourne, people normally going that way. They jump on the tram, wouldn't they? And they go straight from there to the field. Is that right?
Well, you can, but it's easier just to walk it. It's an easy walk. It's an easy walk. And you got the station, Jollymont Station up there. So a lot of people come in by train to Jollymont and come down from there. But it's yeah. So you have that, and you have the captains and the coaches have a little chat. And then after that, we missed it. We went and caught up with my family for lunch. But then they have what they call a captain's run, where and they had 30,000 people in the ground for which is that's a full gabba basically, nearly a full gabba in the ground for that hour or so. They just kick the ball around, just sign stuff for the fans, and then we wait with very nervously until Saturday morning, and we're there by about 11. The game doesn't start till 2:30, but we'll get there, and there's a whole heap of activities going on. As we had the pre-game stuff as well with the great Snoop, and from there we found our seats, and we're just reading through, and then gradually you just see it filling up. When we were sitting down, the place was probably a third full, if that, quarter full. Yep. And by the time it got the Snoop come on around about 12:30, something like that, there was pretty much probably 80,000 in, and then come up the game, you had 101,000 people in the place. It's just amazing, like it's just a whole, and the noise. But what I really loved was the supporters were fantastic, both sides. There was it was a really good atmosphere because everyone thought that they were a big chance of winning it, and we're in a great mood. So the vibe was just fantastic.
In an event like that, so it wasn't an aggro vibe between supporters?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, they're really, really good. Both like our supporters are pretty good. Queenslanders, they're pretty laid back.
Yeah.
And we've got also, because we joined up with Fitzroy when they disbanded, we became the Brisbane Lions with the Brisbane Bears before that, and we've got probably 20,000 ex-Fitzroy fans that live in Melbourne, and then with our own. So the whole vibe with the teams, like our supporters are just fantastic. I mean, we got every time someone kicks a goal, they got their own song. So Charlie Cameron kicks a song. It's Country Rose, as we all know too well. And then,
what the goalie kicked, mate, that one right on the boundary line.
Yeah.
Amazing goal.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But the whole place will break into song. From the Brisbane side. No one, Geelong didn't have any songs, so it was sort of they'll probably ban that for next. No, you're not allowed to sing it. It's too. But and then to start the game, and it was the best. Oh, look, another thing too, just little omens that came up that were walking down as a young lady, a young family walking down. I said, "Oh, where you going?" He said, "Yeah, we're from Brisbane." I said, "Oh, good." He said, "Yeah, you managed to get tickets all right?" He said, "No, we were down at Evans Head or Aluka or something down that way, camping, and they got a missed call." I said, "I'll go and check out." So they Googled the number and found out it was from the Brisbane Lions. Rang up and said, "Look, we've got 4 tickets. Do you want to go?" I said, "Yeah, we'll go." So they managed to get their tickets and flew down. And then I was standing at the getting the coffee, and this young bloke he's from Fitzroy, and I said, "Oh, mate, you going?" He says, "Yeah, I've got a ticket." He goes, "I didn't. I come down to watch it on the big screen." And a bloke came up to me and said, "Mate, do you need a ticket?" He goes, "Oh, I'll have one." Yeah. He goes, "Here you go." He goes, "How much?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "I got it for nothing." So he gave it. Okay, see, all these nice vibes going around the place,
You think if someone got for nothing, they'd still be trying to pick something up for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So that was the basic vibe. It was.
I think
it was great.
We're so lucky in that way with our sport, mate. And I'm listening, and this is probably a bad analogy, but I'm listening to an audio book at the moment about the Eureka Stockade. And you look at countries like America that had these big civil wars and everything else, and the closest we came to that was Eureka Stockade, and even was important and led to the foundation of democratic system here and different political parties. It only lasted for about 15 minutes. It's almost like Aussies went, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's just like, okay, we've had our spat, but let's just get back to getting on.
Yeah.
And I think with our sporting thing, it goes that way because obviously in rugby league, you got the Queensland, New South Wales thing where we're the cockroaches. Sorry, they're the cockroaches, we're the cane toads, and you dab and dig at each other and everything else. But it's always a little bit tongue in cheek. Like we might be passionate about it, but it's not like we hate them. It's like Payne House play. We've got players that play for New South Wales that play for the Broncos, and we're cheering for them. And we don't take those things that seriously. I think we're really blessed in that way.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Well, I was really a Storm supporter, being a Victorian, but I was really on the side of the Broncos for the first time ever, I reckon. But that Walsh, what a player! What a player, mate! That guy is unbelievable.
It was so funny too, seeing so many Sydney supporters supporting the Broncos over Melbourne because they got that Melbourne-Sydney rivalry that goes on, which seems to overpower the Brisbane-Sydney rivalry, which is really just around football.
Yeah.
And so many Sydney siders were going for Brisbane, which it's good to see them finally come to their senses. It's great to see them doing that. But yeah, mate, Walsh just stood up. But that's like I was listening with the AFL. I was driving into my gig, listening to the radio and the commentators, and they were all writing Brisbane off. And they're saying that Cameron was past his peak. He was like, he had to play a push up forward because he's been useless the last few games and all that stuff. And okay, halftime it was tied. You thought the boys are doing really well, hanging in there. Hope they keep hanging in there. You got to that last quarter. What happened to them? They were like snorting super cocaine or something that came out and just kind of.
Yeah, well, they can do that.
Playing against amateurs almost.
They can do. Look, there's a big thing about the Brisbane Lions that other clubs don't get, and that's because most of the players come from interstate. We have a very good academy now where we're getting a lot of local talent coming into there was a few local boys playing who've been through the academy in that game, but the culture with the Lions is second to none because they're coming from everywhere around the country. They've all got to bond together. Like in Melbourne, they'll go to training, go home to their family, go to their. This is a bunch of blokes, young fellas, 18-year-old when they get up here, and all they've got is each other when they get here, and they've got a coach who doesn't coach like your normal fire and brimstone. He's looks after them and says, what can we do to, and gives them confidence. So when a player goes out, you've got a young player in there, hasn't been, like Ty Gallup. It's his fifth game was the grand final. But he fitted in perfectly and played his role to the T. And this is what the other clubs don't get. And I heard on the radio, Melbourne radio, where they're complaining, Brisbane, they got their academy and their father and son things with the Ashcroft boys, and then the commentator's name was Dwayne Russell, the radio guy. He goes, listen, you're a Victorian club, just get better at what you do, get better at what you're doing. And because of our conditions, and the other thing that a lot of Victorian players want to come up here is the weather, because they don't get the same injuries as in training and all that, and recover quicker. And we've got a very good medical staff. So you get now where players leave the Lions and the Bears as soon as you might draft a young player, keep him for 2 years, and they'll take off to another club. Before Fagan got there, we lost 5 players who just said, no, we don't want to play anymore. We want to go out. And they've just come out of their 2-year guarantee, and they all took off. And then Fags come along the following year. And he was he never played Aussie rules. Not at that level. He played in Tasmania in their competition, and he did a bit of coaching down there. And then he was a football director at Melbourne and Hawthorn. And Hawthorn very successful, but he never coached. And the CEO of the club, he said, "Come." He said, "Well, I never coached." He goes, "I reckon you can." And he had Lee Matthews as on the board, who said, "No, give it a go. You'll be right. You'll be right." And he just got into it, and then he found a way of working with players that brought the best out of them. Brought the best out of their humanity and all that type of stuff. And with that came their football skills. As soon as they go, he trusts me. I'm not going to get kicked out of this team straight away. And
did he have something to build on? Because back in the glory days when we did, 3 in a row, Lee Matthews was coaching then, right?
Yeah.
Did he set up that basic culture then? And this is something.
Lee's one of the only superstars that's been a good coach. Most of the really good coaches were had a teaching background and were, ordinary players, but knew how to get the ordinary players what they had to go through to become a good player. Knew how to do that. Lee's one of the only ones who understood it. What he did that was really different was he had a psychologist in there. Who was part of the coaching crew, and his job was to figure out what sort of what made each bloke tick. So they had the guys called Mozzie enforcers. They were the hard men. You couldn't, and the way to treat them, you had to treat them hard. Then you had the feeler thinkers, and you had to treat them a little bit differently. So they figured out a way how to treat each individual. So when they come together as a team, you're not, offending them or just putting them off with their development. So once they figured that out, they can develop the players. So that started really early. And Lee was one of the first ones to have a really elite medical team. And they're very good at keeping players on the ground and getting them back into it. So that they had a lot of things, and it was the first time where they had full-time assistant coaches, and he had really good ex-players who were really good with people. They found the guys that were really good people to go and look after the players and with their coaching, the skills and all that type of stuff. So that's where it started. But Fags took it to a new level. He took it to a absolutely new level where, I'm hopeless. I wrote them off about 10 times. I go, "Oh, we got no hope this year." He goes, "No, I trust the guys. I trust them." We got flogged by Geelong in the qualifying final, absolutely flogged. Then we played the Gold Coast, who beat us by 80-something points only 5 or 6 weeks beforehand, because we come off one of those trips. And then they've come off a trip over to Western Australia and had the short turnaround, and we beat them quite convincingly. And then we had Collingwood, who we'd beaten a couple of times, but they just started to come good. So everyone's written us off for Collingwood. They wrote us off for the Gold Coast too, because they flogged us last time. Yeah. So and they wrote us off for Collingwood favourites. And the team just has a way of wearing them down with the physicality, and then finding that extra leg, the extra energy to really play through it and take the game. So they make the game look easy because they've lost their energy, they've lost their shape on the field. It's probably talking too much footy talk, but that's
great. That's what talk about.
That's what it's all about.
I think it's exciting times ahead for us up here in Queensland, because when it comes to the rugby league, I'm a Dolphins boy, Redcliffe boy, but I also grew up obviously following the Broncos. And up here, well, you might be Dolphins. If the Bronx are playing, you're going to go for the Bronx. If the Cowboys are playing, you're going to go for the Cowboys. If the Titans,
exactly.
Same with Brisbane in the AFL and Gold Coast Suns. You're going to jump those ways across those. And I think that's something we've got at our heart and soul, that we're going to be doing that. But when you look at those premier, obviously the guys won the competitions, the Lions and the Bronx, you look at both those squads, they're so young, and you got Fagan, who's so great a coach, and you got Michael Maguire, who's first year in, and obviously
he's won one before, hasn't he?
We took the Rabbitohs through. Then he went to Wigan in England, and he won over there with Wigan. Then he went to New Zealand, and he got New Zealand to win the World Cup in rugby league. He went to New South Wales. Within 1 year, they beat us the year he coached us then. Then he came up to the Broncos, and he's won the premiership after 1 year with the Broncos. So these guys are doing something right with those young squads. And they've got 10 years of development in front of them, if we can hopefully hang on to those coaches to go through to build something up. And that's going to spin off to your Cowboys and your Dolphins and your Gold Coast boys and everything else, because that you looked at that grand final of the rugby league last night, all the stars were basically all Queensland players.
Yeah.
And that's like, when it comes back to our state of origin and the sport up here, it's just so healthy and it's a great vibe. And I know. Sounded very, as you said, talking so much footy, but sounded very parochial here. But it's an exciting sporting time up here, mate.
Oh, it's look when you look at the whole country, most people want to do what we're doing, live here. Yeah, Victoria's in a hell of a state.
Yeah,
even though they're great, their footy and stuff's going, but it's in politically it's terrible.
Well, mate, when you're talking about players coming up here, I was going to say, I'm not going to hold our politicians up as a flagship or anything, because I got, it's not as bad as it was, but it's still not great. But when you compare it to Victorian politicians, really, you'd want to come up here straight away, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And look, it's just the people are good. I've noticed that the first time I got up here, there was, and just playing as a muso, everyone's, the gigs we had over the years, they're just all good people. We've both got people who follow us 30, 35 years ago. You probably got even longer.
Yeah.
But it's just a beautiful place to be. It really is. It's not really today. I'm at Scarborough at the moment. I've just been for a walk. I saw you. There's guys out there, windsurfers, and there's people. Everyone's happy. It's just a beautiful place to be. Yeah, and I think the players find that too when they get up here. And it's probably the same for the Broncos, a destination club, for Southerners.
I think the Gold Coast teams struggle a bit more because the people who follow the Gold Coast teams also come from other places.
Exactly.
Their roots aren't quite as ingrained as much in the local community. Yeah. I know it will be and everything else, but I think that's tougher for them down there. It's a little bit like when I lived in Los Angeles. It was very rare to meet someone from Los Angeles. They were all people who moved to Los Angeles. And their main support is for where they came from originally.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the club moving up here for the Lions, they ingrained themselves into the culture, and then they were able to tap into those people that were deeply ingrained here, living their life here,
Yeah, well, the Bears was similar to what's going on with the Gold Coast. It was, but the Gold Coast are playing really well, and it'll be a generational thing.
Exactly.
What's happened up here, and why they're getting so dirty down there, because we've got academies, because we've got to develop, because we're in a rugby league state, and we didn't have a look in the early days. So they developed their own academies and trying to get kids into playing AFL. Choices, got soccer and rugby league and union, and so they get their fair, and that's really taken off. My son, Dave, he was just below the level of being picked up in the AFL, but he played a lot of local footy. But he worked for the AFL when he was 18, and they're the ones that went around schools and do it, and they had buckled. Now, the amount of kids that are playing, we have more kids playing AFL than all the other southern states they play the game. They've really, really done a great job of getting young kids to get into the game, and it's now as when saying it's generational. Now these kids are coming through. Kids like my kids have come through pretty much the whole time here. Apart from the oldest bloke, they're all Brisbane Lions supporters.
Mate, what AFL's done the best, and NRL have done pretty well. I actually had a chat the other day with Alan Graham, who's been for 23 years the general manager at Suncorp Stadium, and he's also one of the founders of the Fogs, of former Origin greats, and they put a lot of work back into young communities and rural communities, and one of the things they're focused on at the moment is in a lot of those rural communities, helping kids get their licenses, but with driver training, and I think that's a really great thing. But I compare that to my kids coming up. 3 of them played like National Premier League level soccer. And the thing with soccer was, mate, the fees when
that's what they say.
Fees get exorbitant, where most people have to drop out and they can't keep playing. Whereas I think the AFL have kept things really easy for people for kids to get in and play, and they've been able to commercialise their top level and flow that down to the younger ones. In soccer, they haven't commercialised their top level here, so they want to draw money out of the young people to pour that up into the top level, so they can afford to do it there. They've got it all back the front. and I'd sack everyone in the soccer boards around the place and get them to look at the models that the AFL and the NRL have and how they develop players, because they're just getting it wrong. But all power to the AFL for the way they've done that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's like everyone I speak to with the soccer just goes, "Oh, it costs you a fortune, buddy."
You pay $1,000 a year for your kids to play, and if you got 3 kids playing, but $5-6 grand for them to play before you get put on a jersey.
Yeah. What was it like with your kids? Same.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
It's probably worse now. I mean, the guys haven't played. They've finished a number of years ago now, but I'm sure it's probably worse now. I haven't kept up with it, but that's the type of thing we were having to fork out for kids to play that sport. And any other area, if your kids get seen as being elite athletes or whatever, they actually get benefits to help them get better. But in soccer, you just had to keep paying more and more money. It's great. But
well, I hung in there.
Yeah. They loved it. We were like big on sport, and I think kids got so much out of being in sport. And I wasn't a big one on playing rugby league because I was a bit of a wimp in that way.
It doesn't matter. Sport, any sport. All my kids had to play sport, and it kept them off the streets and kept them off the. Well, these days you got your problems with the internet and all that was never around when our kids were growing up.
Mate, sport you learn to. I carried over into music for me because I played soccer, hockey, cricket. I played one at school, one season of rugby league, one season of AFL. The thing that with AFL got me up here was how big the field was. And of course, when you're not a good team or a good players, you say disconnected from everything. Like you watch the top players and they're over that field like crazy. But when you're in the school team, it's like everything's like 400 yards away down that way, and you're kind of just standing there for 40 minutes. So it was a bit different that way.
Yeah.
But I love sport. And it was that same vibe when I got into music. It was almost like every band I was in, it was like you were in a football team. You're in a team together and you're trying to do things together. And, we would never focus, sadly, on the economics of it or how you run the business, but we were a team going to get somewhere. Yeah. And I actually love that.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. And Dave, who he played AFL until he was 32, something like that, and coached and all that type of stuff. But he's always the people he met and are still friends with now in the community in the AFL is still going to this day. And I know all the guys were just kids when they were playing together, and barristers, lawyers, and all taken off in their own little way, but all stayed mates. All come from different jobs and all that type of stuff, but all stayed mates for all those years and still to this day. So
Mate,
that's the good thing about sport.
Going back to the AFL Grand Final that you were just at, that moment, we obviously knew about maybe halfway through that last quarter that we had it. Well, we were like, surely they can't lose it from here was the feeling. That moment when the final siren went and crowd went off, mate, what was that experience like for you? Through to like you finish that moment, then you get out of the stadium and you're on your way back down. Can you explain that journey and that experience?
Well, the first one's relief, and then it was just like, you let everything go at that moment when the siren goes. It's just a big release and it's so much joy. Like we've watched the game. I reckon we've watched it 10 times since then. We've got it. I just had it on.
Is that because of the game or because you're reliving your experience you had?
Trying to relive the experience, because it was just, and we've had it. And then you had such a high, but when we got back, I was flat as a tack because you had, with every yin, there's a yang.
Yeah, fatigue.
And then, just fatigue and you just excitement and all that type of stuff. But, that feeling was that moment the siren goes. It's like that, and the whole place lets it go at the same time. That big roar. When you're doing gigs and you get it and you're on fire and the whole place goes. Just imagine that with 100,000 people. God almighty. It was unbelievable. And we was just so thrilled. And we were going to go back, meet some friends back at the Pullman.
But was it a slog getting out of the stadium, or was it like moved pretty quick?
No, even the Jalumpa, there was no. We just walked back up to town. It was a bit slow, but everyone was just sort of wow, and a little bit stunned after you get that initial, exuberance. Everyone's just like a little stunned. I was sort of quite quiet. No one go, yeah. You sort of got all that done in that.
We just lived a moment.
When you live the moment, yeah. And then we just couldn't wait to get home to go and watch the replay.
Yeah.
And get some takeaways, sit in the hotel room, and watch the footy. It was fantastic. It really was.
Oh, I just wanted to have that chat because I know it's something we're passionate about. But I have a bitch I have to say to both the AFL and the NRL. I appreciate the artists they had on for their entertainment were good artists.
Yeah.
About that. But can you maybe support some Aussie music a bit more? I mean, the NRL, I've forgotten the guy's name already, but the guy they had on.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. No, NRL one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I can't. I didn't see it. I missed it.
Good singer, mate. He's got that hit song he's got. But most Aussies don't really know him that well. And the highlight was he did a cover of an AC/DC song.
Yeah, I saw that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, TNT. And it's like, well, imagine how, and why not then put on, if maybe a profiled Aussie artist with maybe an emerging Aussie artist and they do 3 Aussie classic songs, I reckon that would go off much more for the crowd. And it's actually putting and promoting Australian music. Same with Snoop Dogg, mate. Snoop Dogg's great. No worries about that. Yeah, and his genre of music. It's not my thing, but I get these good. But then, what's the lass he had on, the Australian singer, the girl he had on with him?
What's the name? Melboy, was it?
Yeah, Jessica Melboy. He had her on to sing like about 2 or 3 lines.
Yeah.
And then the other artist playing, Didgeridoo, which I think was just recorded Didgeridoo, of course. And that was like the tokenism for it being in Australia. But I'm sure that these 2 artists really knew nothing about AFL or NRL. Now, I get it when it goes back to
but what they did know, they were getting paid really well.
Exactly. Well, not only then, mate, here's the thing. When it goes back to the days when Tina Turner was there, I get having the international artist because she had that song which the NRL were using to promote the sport. Otherwise, you get all these other artists over, whether it be Meatloaf, whatever, they know nothing about the sport.
Oh, Meatloaf, that was a classic.
Yeah. But we can do it with Australian artists doing this. So many Australian classic songs. And let's face it, most AFL and rugby league crowds are the people who will go into a pub and enjoy Aussie music.
Yeah.
So put that on, promote Aussie artists. But what happens is, and I had back in the early 2000s, Rupert McCall and myself, we'd written a song that was for a few years was used by the Queensland Rugby League as the official State of Origin song called Forever Queensland. And we got to play at the ANZ Stadium for the last Origin game there and the first game at Suncorp Stadium out in the middle of the field. And I kind of thought that was appropriate because we weren't out there doing other stuff. We were doing the song that was the Queensland.
That was designed, written for that particular moment.
Now, we thought at the time, and this is my lack of knowing the reality of things at the time. I thought we had Triple M playing that song, the ABC were playing it. It was being endorsed by the Queensland Rugby League. The Queensland Premier had mentioned it in Parliament. There were all these things that were like, it was like, we had support. And I thought, we'd been asked to play it in the stadiums. I thought that would get coverage with the TV shows. But no, they totally blocked it because it wasn't a deal done with Sony or it wasn't done with the record companies, everything else. They wouldn't play anything of it. So all these artists that come out here, the thing is the record companies, to the best of my knowledge, pay to have their artists go on there to the Australian Rugby League or the AFL. They obviously get money, not just back from the fee that gets paid to the artist, but those songs being played on a TV show that's going out to 7 or 8 and 9 million Australian people. They get a lot of royalties off that.
There's a lot of royalties there. Yeah.
And so it's all about the money that's being paid. And I'm just saying, if they're going to do that, so many musicians support rugby league because we grew up in the situation where we were always told in Queensland that you couldn't make it from Queensland. You had to go down to Sydney or Melbourne to make it.
Yes,
when
right.
Came along, we were like all there, heart and soul. We've supported you guys so much. How about you guys support Australian musicians a bit more? Put Aussies on in these things, and they don't have to be playing new songs that people don't know. Say to them, we'll put a super band behind you. You guys will promote your name, but play 3 top Aussie hits.
Well, I've done some stuff with Braithwaite and Russell Morris and a few others. All hit guy. The band's full of actual solo artists who don't do the thing. And that'd be a great thing, like just get those, just sing there, one sings horses, one sings, or you get crying shame or something, or, who are all still playing.
But also have them on, maybe have one of them on with an emerging artist, so that emerging artist gets his name profile more to a mass audience. And he may not be doing his song, but you get to know who that artist is. Oh, that was the guy who sang at AFL. I'll check him out on Spotify.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Help us
from a punter's point of view, like I really like Snoop Dogg, but I only knew a couple of the songs. So any of the older people, it wasn't. You want to get something where everyone knows the song, so everyone can be involved. Yeah, like us doing gigs, we play songs that people know, Yeah,
exactly. So, but you got a guy going out there who's good but playing songs people don't know. You won't have anywhere near the effect if you had like a made up group playing Working Class Man,
Yeah, exactly.
You can have the whole stadium singing along.
Yeah,
and building that vibe up. So that's my only bitch about the whole thing. But I thought, other than that, it's been a great week, couple of weekends of sport.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to chat to you about that, and maybe if we can get you on regularly, we'll talk about a few other things along the way and what we're doing. Yeah. But anything you want besides us playing, I'm sure it's a highlight of your life and everyone's life that we're playing together at Full Moon next Saturday night. Well, anything else you want to tell people about?
Well, no, let's talk about the Full Moon. That gig, those gigs we do there are some of the best gigs I've ever played.
Yeah.
It's just one of those rooms where we've got a lot of people who know what we do, and they all turn up religiously. And it's the pub's well run. Northern Territorians who own the pub.
Hey, Toby and Lucy, they got to be some of the best operators around the place. And you get so many people say, "What are the Full Moon doing right?"
Well, they're an independent.
These guys know how to run a venue.
Yeah, and the owner's actually running the place. So
and they're using music as a big part of what they're doing, mate. They still
they know how to do it.
They got great meals. They've got they still cover with the screens and everything, but they use music a lot. It's they leverage that a lot, and they support musicians. And mate, that's I think.
Well, they're typical Territorians, mate. Like the pubs up there. Seriously, it's like the old days. There's no big chains like AOH and the big corporates. They're all just individually owned pubs. Might be small little groups, but they're so well run, and it's just a pleasure to go up and work up there. I've been going up there for years, on and off, and going to residencies for 6 weeks or something like that. But they talk to you. How would you want to work this? They talk to the artist. What can we do to make it better? You got any ideas for a promo? That sort of stuff, and that's what's missing at the moment. But
well, mate, the other good thing about the Full Moon is they've got a good pokey room, but it doesn't dominate the venue. Their main stuff. Well, I don't know their facts and figures, but they draw. You can't go up there any day of the week. Yeah, and you struggle to get a table for lunch, and it's not. It's not a budget place, mate. It's like they have quality, a bit of high end stuff up there.
Yeah.
And weekends it's chockers. And now on the weekends you're getting a lot of younger crew from the local.
They do.
Great kids, they're coming in and they're thinking, why would we go to the Valley? We got this great place here. And they're having their own parties up there at the Full Moon. So it's bringing on all these things, and they're running that venue like a little Las Vegas, where it's got entertainment's working, food's working, pokies are working, their sports bars working. They've got everything.
Breakfast.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
so it's just a real pleasure to do. You go there, it's easy. We're not walking in there and going, oh no. We can put the big banner up. Where can you do that? Any other pub you can put the banner up in front of the big screen.
And thank goodness the football games are over now for the rest of the year. So we don't have to worry.
That was good timing, wasn't it? Jesus,
But mate, we are there this upcoming Saturday. We gave the date before, and we're also there on New Year's Eve this year. So if you're looking for someone to go New Year's Eve, guys, head on up there. And
the best New Year's Eve in town, that one.
Third year in a row, mate. We'll kick it out of the park again. But mate, thank you for your time and having this chat. It's been good to catch up with you again, and I reckon we should do this a bit more regularly.
Yeah, fantastic. It was good, and I got it all going.
Mate, we're mastering
technology.
To
get on the air.
See you, brother.
All right, mate. Catch up.